Welcome back, everybody. Today's video is about popular fragrance, in some cases very popular fragrances that I don't like anymore, or that I used to love and now I don't love. So, some of them I still have a fondness for. Others I just straight out don't like, but it's basically an example of how tastes can change from, it's very also common for people to talk about how they used to really dislike a fragrance and now love it. This video is about the opposite. And in particular, fragrances that have quite a universal appeal. So they're not obscure fragrances, and in fact one or two of them might surprise you if you've been watching the channel long enough. I'm going to start off with a couple that basically I used to like a lot, and in one case probably love. When I first started buying a lot more fragrances, Amen Pure Malt was talked about a lot. You don't really hear people talk about it too much these days, but I was right into the sweet spot of gourmand and boozy fragrances, and I think Amen Pure Malt just like really for a first time smell, it was really like nothing I had smelled up until then. But at that point I was only kind of exposed to stuff that I could smell in department stores. These days I just find it way too sweet for my tastes. I know I shouldn't worry or care about this, but it does smell a bit too juvenile for me. And I don't mean that in a derogatory way. I just feel like I'm kind of too old. I feel too old to be wearing something like pure malt. It's weird, but it's my hang up. The other one is also what I would consider gourmandish, and it was interesting. I actually discovered this maybe a couple of years ago. One scent that was quite popular when it came out, or is still quite popular, is By the Fireplace by Maison Martin Margiela. And at the same time, I also happened to smell Noir Exquis from L'Artisan Parfumeur. And to me, they're in kind of the same ballpark. There's smoky, sweet. I think hazelnut is a note in there as well. Perhaps coffee. I can't remember now. Anyway, to me, they kind of felt similar, and I actually preferred the L'Artisan Parfumeur, the Noir Exquis version to By the Fireplace, which I didn't love that much. And now I just find the L'Artisan just really, there is something quite grating in the notes to my nose, and it never feels like, the last few times I wore it, it never felt like a completely comfortable wear to me. So, I used to like it when I first had it, but probably after a year of wearing it, the novelty really wore off. And it probably, again, corresponds with me not wanting anything too kind of sweet or gourmand. So that's one I used to like. I don't hate that one, but it's just one that I wouldn't ever see myself wearing again. The other one that I actually used to like, and I actually at the time did a review of it, and it was a positive review, but if I were to be doing a review of this one now, I wouldn't be negative, but I wouldn't sort of recommend it or say that it's something that I really love or want a full bottle of. It's not that at the time my review wasn't honest. It was just, and this is on a side note, I am thinking about re-reviewing some old things that I reviewed just to see if I think differently about them as well. But beside the point, that's for another video. Oud Satin Mood from Maison Francis Kurkdjian. To me, these days I find it pretty unwearable in a very vanilla, overdose, suffocating kind of way. I find it just too much. The rose is lovely in this particular scent. The oud, I always found it to be predominantly rose and vanilla, and the vanilla is just too much. And I don't find a whole lot of MFK fragrances great on my skin. There's probably 2 at a stretch, 3 that I really like. One I love, being Absolu pour le Soir, but I just haven't found a lot to love in that particular house. The next one that I don't love anymore is a strange one. This, like Amen, when I started getting into fragrances, was another one that, everyone talked about. It's from Creed, it's Green Irish Tweed, and I had bought myself a big decant, I'm talking 30ml decant of Green Irish Tweed, and again, I used to love it. I used to love Green Irish Tweed. I thought, I just loved the greenness of it, and that even though there's a lot of comparison to things like Cool Water, and now there are so many clones of it. When I first smelled Green Irish Tweed, I was actually unfamiliar with what Cool Water smelled like, so I thought it was a great fresh smell, and the old cliche of epitomizing an idealistic spring scent is what I kind of was attracted to when I first started wearing it. Then about a year or 18 months ago even, I wore it, and it's like it just clicked to me that this just does, I felt like disembodied from the scent basically. I felt like this was one scent that didn't feel like me anymore. Like I know it's strange, and me saying that, Pure Malt felt like I was too old for it, and yet Green Irish Tweed, I kind of almost felt like I was too young for it. but it's not anything really to do with age. It just stopped feeling like me, and that totally psychologically affected the way I smelled it. The scent was the same. In fact, I gave this decant to my son, and he also enjoys Pure Malt as well. I gave it to my son, and he wore it yesterday. And when I smelled it on him, I literally did not know what I was smelling other than that it was familiar. And when he looked at me strangely and said, "It's Green Irish Tweed," it snapped, and I said, "Oh, of course it is." But it was a completely different experience smelling it on him. And I could never really wear it again. Okay, so the last one I've fallen out of love with is a bottle that is technically still in my rotation, and it's the only one I bought in with me for this video. And I actually don't have anything against the scent itself. It's a designer classic. I think this is purely a case of me having kind of gone off a particular note, and that note is iris. I am having a difficult time in my relationship with iris at the moment, and unfortunately some perfumes have been negatively affected by it, and I'm talking about Dior Homme EDT. This is not Silver Stem original or anything. This is the one that came out in 2012. I I don't I don't I don't hate it. I just never ever feel like wearing it really anymore. And in fact, if I sold this, I would not miss it right now. I can't speak for myself in a few months' time, but right now I'm not in love with Dior Homme or many other iris dominant fragrances. So that was my video. I hope it wasn't too controversial, but it happens, you know. Maybe one day I'll try and put together a video of fragrances I hated initially and now totally love. Let me know if you've had similar experiences with perfumes yourself in the comments. I look forward to reading them, and I will see you all later. Bye.